Hi everyone and welcome to Just Love. My name is Paula and I'm here with Judy. Hi Judy.
Hi Paula, hi everyone.
Judy, today you want to discuss an interview that you've listened to recently.
Yes, Paula, I've been listening to a very interesting interview with author remote viewer Dr. Courtney Brown, talking about negative extraterrestrials who are controlling Earth plane humanity and how a war is on the verge of breaking out between them and the good ETs who are trying to protect us.
That's not what we want.
No way. And I have a great deal of respect for Courtney Brown and his remote viewing, having read 2 of his books quite a few years ago. These books are entitled Cosmic Voyage and Cosmic Explorers. In them, he talks about remote viewing sessions he and his team have done with both the Greys and the Reptilians. The conclusion they reached through very strictly controlled remote viewing, which is also used by the military and is more reliable than channeling or psychic sensing, is that the Greys are the goodies and the Reptilians are the baddies. He also claims that Dr. Stephen Greer's opinion that there are no negative ETs influencing Earth and that all the interference is coming from a shadow government cabal right here on Earth is not correct.
So what's your opinion on all of the above?
Oh, mixed. I totally agree with the information in Courtney Brown's books, but I also totally agree with Dr. Stephen Greer that all negative interference is from down here, and so I need to explain why I sit firmly between the two of them.
Okay, so please continue.
Okay, yes, negative interference is happening on Earth, coming from a reptoid group of beings, but they are not extraterrestrial. They are interdimensional and from right here on Earth. This is the reason why I refer to them as Repterrans, Terra, T-R-R-A, T-E-R-R-A being the Latin name for Earth, to differentiate them from the off-planet reptilians.
So they are not extraterrestrial, they are interdimensional and from right here on Earth.
Exactly. And my feeling is that this is where the usually accurate remote viewing went a bit astray. I'd say they saw the reptilian-type beings, as Courtney talks about in his 2 books, but because they don't look like Earth humans, I think the remote viewers just automatically assumed them to be from off-planet. Yes, there are off-planet reptilians coming, but they're on the positive side. I talk extensively about the negative ones, the Repterrans, in my book Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History.
So Repterrans, not reptilians.
Yes. The Repterrans are an ancient Earth-human culture going back to the time of the dinosaurs and are the ones firmly behind the shadow government and cabal that Stephen Greer talks about. They're the ones causing all the problems and encouraging the authorities to lay the blame on genuine ETs, usually the Greys, but the off-planet reptilians cop it too. I know this is very confusing, which is why I'd like to take the time to break it down.
Okay, go for it.
What needs to be clearly understood is that the saurians, the dinosaurs, were present on Earth for around 165 million years, much longer than present-day humans. An off-planet group, I think it was the Draconians, bioengineered a reptoid-type Earth-human species out of them, which has had millions of years to develop an extremely high level of technology. The Repterrans, in turn, were the ones who bioengineered a mammalian human species out of primate stock, solely to work as slaves for them in mining operations.
Okay, so we have the Draconians who bioengineered a reptoid Earth human species out of the dinosaurs to create the Repterrans, who were the ones who bioengineered a mammalian human species out of primate stock solely to work as slaves for them in the mining operations.
Yes. These are the ones that have been referred to as mixtures, as they were still very much a part of the animal kingdom. The Repterrans only humanised them enough to enable them to understand and follow orders. They were physically strong beings bred specifically to carry out mining work for the Repterrans, so they were nothing more than slaves, and treated as such. When off-planet people such as the Pleiadians, Lyrans, Syrians, etc. saw what was happening, they came here to intervene, with a plan to upgrade the mixtures more fully into the human kingdom by contributing their own DNA to assist the process. The Repterrans looked upon Earth as their own and did not want this off-planet interference. a massive space war did break out, as Courtney Brown talks about in his interview.
Were the off-planet people successful?
Up to a point, in that they were able to humanise the mixtures to bring them more fully into the human kingdom, but eventually they were driven away and ended up having to leave Earth in the hands of the Reptilians. This is the reason why the so-called God of the Old Testament is so polarised. The young primate humans, of course, could not understand the technology being used by both sides, and so mistook both the Reptilians and the higher dimensional ETs for a god figure or else multiple gods.
Judy, what do you mean when you say that the young primate humans could not understand the technology being used by both sides? What are the two sides?
Two sides are the Reptilians and the off-planet people, who are referred to in ancient texts as Elohim, which translates as gods. The Reptilians, of course, encouraged this misunderstanding and are still here to this day, keeping humanity enslaved through religion, politics and science, working behind the shadow government and still shooting down any genuine ETs that try to approach to assist humanity to be free of enslavement.
Yes, we can certainly see this scenario playing out.
The other point that worries me with Courtney Brown's interview is his obvious reference to Lawrence Spencer's book, Alien Interview. This book was written by Spencer from notes supposedly sent to him by a woman by the name of Matilda McElroy, who claimed to have been a military nurse at the time of the Roswell crash. Her claim was that she'd had telepathic communication with a survivor of the crash, a grey-type ET by the name of Elle. Right at the beginning of the book, Lawrence Spencer states that he never met Matilda McElroy face to face, so has no real proof of her identity. She has never been traced. I've read this book and in fact wrote my book, An Interview with an Alien, based on it, because there were a number of very questionable points and glaring contradictions in it. In his interview, Courtney Brown uses the term ISBE, I-S-B-E, which is a term of convenience straight out of Lawrence Spencer's book that Elle the ET used to refer to our soul essence.
What does it stand for?
It stands for immortal spiritual being. That term's very good, and I agree entirely with it. And it's a term I like to use too, immortal spiritual being, to describe the reality of our higher immortal soul essence. I think the Alien Interview book is basically a true story, which could be why it's been confirmed through remote viewing, but at the same time there's a lot of misinformation in it, which is why I wrote my book based on it, and there are a number of contradictions in it as well. If it is a true story, as the remote viewing seems to show, then the telepathic information given by the ET known as Elle has been either not properly understood in the first place or else tampered with before the document was sent to Lawrence Spencer. This is what I picked up with it. I've also read claims that Lawrence Spencer is a Scientologist. I have no idea whether this is true or not, but at the same time, Elle uses a couple of terms that I believe are taken directly from Scientology.
So, such as?
Okay, one glaring one is the term doll bodies for the artificial bodies that the Greys use, and also the term space opera, neither of which I've ever heard used by the Greys. In fact, they always refer to their artificial bodies as containers, as in containers for the soul. I'd just like to add here, I highly respect both Courtney Brown and Stephen Greer, and my feeling is that they are both correct, but terminology and semantics get in the way somewhat. And as I said earlier, if the remote viewers saw non-human looking reptilian type beings, they most likely assume they were not from here. As for the Alien Interview book, it may very well be a true story, and in fact I think it is, which again is what they've picked up on. But much of the information has been twisted or at least badly translated from the original telepathic messages given to the nurse by the ET.
Yeah, that all does make a lot of sense.
And yes, there most certainly is a reptoid group causing problems, controlling humanity and keeping us enslaved. So Courtney Brown is absolutely right there. The only thing is this reptoid group is not ET, but rather from right here on Earth. So Stephen Greer is also correct.
Yes, and what does Bashar always say?
Exactly. As Bashar so wisely always says, it's not this or that, but rather this and that. And also bear in mind we create our reality through the way we think, so waking up to the enslavement and being consciously aware is our ticket to freedom.
Yes, so very important to remember we create our reality through the way that we think.
The Reptilians are firmly behind religion on Earth and have used it for millennia to create fear. They've trapped us down here by very carefully removing the concept of reincarnation from church doctrine. This is a way more effective way of entrapping us than how it's described in the alien interview book as the light at the end of the tunnel which zaps us when we pass over. What Earl does say that is entirely correct is that indeed we are Isbys, immortal spiritual beings. Knowing and keeping that in mind on a conscious level is also our ticket to freedom. God is not a being up in the sky somewhere, but rather is right here inside every one of us.
So, Judy, one of your tall grey teachers gave you another way to understand all of this.
Yes. What is seriously missing from all this information put out by others is an understanding of the human ladder. This information was given to us, myself and my friend and co-author of The Zeta Message, Helene Kay, back in 2001. It was given to us by a tall grey we know as Horus, then expanded upon by another tall grey who has been around me all my life, who I know as Maris. The human ladder is a path or cycle of 10 expanding and deepening levels of conscious awareness spanning the universe on multidimensional levels. Expansion of consciousness is what evolution in the human kingdom is all about. Earth-plane humanity, along with many other human interplanetary species, is on level 1. This level comprises the greater amount of the physical 3D universe, which is actually a very small part of the whole. The majority of the universe vibrates on energy frequencies way beyond 3D and therefore cannot be perceived by Earth humans and their technology. It is for this reason that the greater part of the universe is peaceful. Level 1 consciousness is only around 10% of our potential soul awareness and is intrinsically linked to the amount of activated DNA we have. So-called junk DNA is comprised of the other 90% that is there, waiting to be awakened over the span of multiple lives. Here we're talking consciousness, not brain. Our brain is simply the physical organ through which we can access consciousness, which is all around us. This could be compared to our lungs, the physical organs through which we can access air, which is all around us. Our human brain is what limits the amount of consciousness that we can access. Once we leave the body at death, our potential is vastly expanded. Our soul, our higher self, actually spans the whole of the human ladder. So self-realization is all about opening up consciously to higher and more expanded levels of our soul self.
So the human ladder is a path or cycle of 10 expanding and deepening levels of conscious awareness spanning the universe on multi-dimensional levels, and Earth is a level 1 planet with around 10% of our potential soul awareness. And that's why you always say that there is no negative off-planet interference, because how could there be? The majority of universal beings are vibrating at a much higher frequency.
Yes, absolutely. And all of these space wars that are spoken of are confined to this first level of the human ladder. All level 1 planets such as Earth have a no-go zone around them to protect them from other level 1 planetary invasions.
Yes, and you've reminded us of this before.
Yes, some of these level 1 planets are home to even more aggressive races than Earth, so quite a lot of higher intervention has had to take place over millennia, which has involved wars in space, as did happen here on Earth. Higher or more evolved planetary people can go to a lower zone, but lower level people cannot go to a higher zone. However, interference can come through from lower dimensions. This is what's happened on Earth. Heaps of negative lower dimensional interference is happening down here, often disguised as space aliens, but it's not from off-planet. The Reptilians I talk about are an earlier Earth human culture, so they were here already when the first mammalian humans were created by them as a slave race to serve them. higher off-planet and interdimensional people, including some reptilian types, saw what was going on and tried to intervene, hence the Star Wars that occurred here on Earth. Apparently there are quite vast areas of vitrified sand in areas such as the Gobi Desert where nuclear weapons were used. The Reptilians basically hijacked the planet and shot down any off-planet ships that tried to intervene, and they're still doing this now. Another important point to be aware of is that we create our reality through our thought processes and mind focus.
Yes, and again you reiterate the importance of this. We do indeed create our reality through our thought processes and mind focus.
And this being the case, negative interference can very easily be drawn into our planet reality, not from outer space, but rather from inner space. That is, other dimensions that are right here, right now. Again, higher assistants may try to intervene, as is happening right now on Earth, but while Earth humans on the whole retain a divisive and warmongering mindset, that is a reality we will create for ourselves.
So, Judy, what you're saying is that we are inviting negativity in through our divisiveness and mindset, both personally and collectively. So it really is up to us. It really does fall on our own personal choices, and that's empowering.
Yes, Paula, it is. It's potentially very empowering, but we need to come to a clear understanding that God is not outside of us as some being up there in the clouds or in heaven. God energy is right here within each and every one of us. Hence the fact, as LET points out, we are all immortal spiritual beings. That understanding is the key. So if you'd like to read more on all of this, my books are available from Amazon and can be accessed through links on my website below. They are Human by Day, Zeta by Night, followed by the Zeta Message, then Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History, and my two most recent books, both Kindle editions and both also available in German, An Interview with an Alien, Comments by an Undercover ET, and Cosmic Spirituality, Blending Religion and Science in Oneness from an Off-Planet Perspective.
That was very interesting. Thank you so much, Jude. And thank you everyone for listening. Please share, like and subscribe. Sending you all much love and bye for now.